Okay. Good morning, everybody. In today's session, we will look into the module one. We'll start with the module one. In the previous session, we looked into the installation of the Hortonworks HTTP sandbox, and we did it using the virtual box and the Hortonworks HTTP sandbox. And once you have the complete installation, you can do the some of the management administration work of the HDFS using the Ambari. Yesterday we saw how to log in into the Ambari, how to start the Ambari, and also we can make a secured session, that is SSH session with the HDFS, and we can using that session we can interact with the HDFS system. So in today's session, we will look into the module one. We will begin module one. Here we will look into Hadoop distributed file system basics, running example programs and benchmark, Hadoop MapReduce framework, and MapReduce programming. And each of these are one complete chapters, chapter 3, 4, and 5, and 6 from the Hadoop 2 Quick Start book. That is the first textbook that is prescribed in your syllabus. And as I told you before, you must read the chapter 1, which will give the information, overall information about the big data, what is the HDFS 1, and what are the changes that, what were the issues with the HDFS 1, and how it was changed back to those, whatever the issues were there, those were resolved, and it is now whatever the version we have is Hadoop 2. And in Hadoop 2, earlier MapReduce used to take care of the scheduling. In Hadoop 2, MapReduce programming is moved to the application layer, and Yarn is introduced. That is YARN, yet another resource negotiator that will take care of the scheduling. So that is the changes you should be aware. And with that understanding, we will look into the module one. Before we begin with the HDFS basics, let us try to understand what is a big data. So whatever the data that is getting stored, okay, we can store in a different way. One of the way is the relational database, where it is a very structured data, and we can run queries on top of that, and we can get the results. But when volume is concerned, if the volume is very large, the relational database type of databases will have a severe problem with the performance as the data size increases. So that kind of a processing might not be helpful. In that kind of a traditional processing, what happens is data is stored in the databases, and server has the processing, and data is brought to the server where the processing happens, and after the processing it will give the results, or it will give some analytics, or it will give some kind of a information, or some inference about the data. Now with this kind of a setup, if we have a very big data, getting the data to the server itself will take a huge amount of time, and it is not practical. So we will not be able to run the processing after getting the data. There will be huge performance hit. To solve that particular problem, the big data has been thought about, and it is implemented using the Hadoop distributed file system, that is HDFS. The core of the HDFS is the data, the volume is huge. As we know, this is a big data. The volume is huge. So instead of bringing the data to the computation or the processing, the computation is taken to the data. So wherever the data is there, the computation is sent there, and the processing is done at there, and the results are taken. That is how it will become very fast. And the data is stored in multiple nodes. There will be in the Hadoop cluster, there will be hundreds of nodes, and data will be stored in a distributed fashion. So this is a distributed file. The data is stored in a distributed fashion in different nodes, and whenever there is a, and also there is a replication of the data. The replication is required in HDFS to make sure that the system is reliable. Because we have hundreds of data nodes, there is a chances that a certain data node will fail. Whenever there is a certain data node fails, we should be able to get the data back. So that is why the it will be stored in the replication, or duplicate copies of the data will be there. If certain node fails, then the name node, also called as a master node, will have the information about the mapping on the data node, what has been stored on that particular data node. And whenever it goes down, the master node or the name node will be checking the status of that particular all the data nodes in the cluster. It will be checking the heartbeat of all the data nodes. Whenever a certain data node fails, the name node will come to know about the failure, and what it will do is it will make the copy. It will know what information, what data is stored in that particular data node. It will replicate it on some other data nodes. That is how it is a like highly reliable. The data will not be lost, no matter the data will be available on the cluster, somewhere in the cluster, either on data nodes on the same rack or different racks. So we will see that in more detail. So as we understand big data, so just to understand the size of the big data, I will give a couple of examples where you can imagine what is the amount of data that is getting generated, how rapidly data gets generated, and if we want to run analytics on top of that, that's a biggest challenge. One example is the stock market. Okay, in stock market, there are hundreds of companies are there. If you consider the whole globe, thousands of companies are being traded, and there are thousands of thousands, millions of people who do the trading. So when they do the trading, every second thousands of trades are happening. Either people are selling the stocks or buying the stocks. This transaction continuously takes place, and people are placing orders. So if you consider over a day, the huge amount of data gets generated. And if you consider over a year or a 5 year or a 10 years, huge amount of data will get generated. So if you want to run any kind of analytics on that data, if you want to run any kind of processing, it would be a big challenge. Another simple example which will make easy understanding is just assume that we have weather stations across the globe. Let us say there are millions of weather stations, and each of these weather stations are generating the data every 10 seconds. Okay, the data could be like a temperature, humidity, other factors that are related to the weather. And assume that every 10 seconds they are giving the data. For example, let us say we have a one weather station in Belgaum airport, and it is transmitting the data. So it will check data every 10 seconds, and it will post that particular data. So we have weather stations like this all over the world. Every weather station is generating the data. You can imagine every day there will be so much of data gets generated. And if you consider over a month, over a year, over 5 year, 10 year, a huge amount of data, valuable data, this is a very valuable data, it gets generated, and the size of the data will keep on increasing. Now, if you want to run any analytics, so first I will tell how the data gets generated. Let us say today is the 27th April 2021, and morning 9 o'clock, Belgaum Airport. So it is has a certain location ID, because every weather station has to be uniquely identified. Certain location ID, and it will give the timestamp. So this today's date, 9 o'clock and 10 seconds. So it will check what is the weather, what is the humidity, and it will insert that particular record into the a central repository, whatever the central repository. In this case, we are talking about the HDFS. So it could be anything. So you can just think that data will be posted. Similarly, all the weather station across the world, they are doing it every 10 seconds. So the data will keep on piling up. And if you want to run certain analytics, or if you want to run certain query on this particular big data, example, the query would be like, what is the average temperature in Belgaum? Okay, what is the average temperature in Belgaum? So there are millions, trillions of records. Out of that, you have to find Belgaum's temperature. Let us say we have a data for last 10 years. We have to get all the data from the trillions of records. You have to get the record which is for the weather station of Belgaum, and find the average, get all the temperature and find the average, and we have to show. So you can imagine, to get that average temperature of the Belgaum, it's a valuable information. So we have to go through the huge pile of a data, do the processing and get the output. If we write a little more complicated query, let us say uh, you are traveling to Belgaum and you want to know what would be the temperature like in April in Belgaum. So historically, so your query would be, what is the average temperature in Belgaum during the month of April? So from the 10 years data across the globe, you have to select the Belgaum weather station, and you have to find the data only for the month of April, and then you have to average it out. So that will give us a valuable information. So these are the examples, some of the examples of the big data, and how we can use that particular data for extracting the information. Okay. Now, with the invention of the IoT and the other devices, there are a lot of data being generated. We can have a lot of data generated. For another example is like traffic lights, where they are capturing the videos. So you have traffic lights all over the country. It is capturing that particular data. And if you want to run some kind of analytics, so those records, those videos, or those images, if you collect it, so over a period of a year or 5 years, it will become a huge amount of data. So that's how we have a lot of other places where data is getting generated. Another example is, if you consider any e-commerce websites, or any store, for example DMart or Reliance Smart. If you see, they are scanning, and that particular when they are doing the billing, they are scanning, so that information is getting inserted into the database. You can see every day they sell so many things, so many items getting scanned against certain phone number or certain user ID. So a lot of information is getting stored in a database in on a daily basis. One of the key features of the big data is like, this data is mostly, it is write once you are going to insert. So all these billing systems, weather stations, they will just insert the record, they will keep on appending the data. There will not be any case of modification. We don't really want to do any kind of a modification. It is just a collection of the data, and then we want to run the analytics on top of that data. So it is like a write once and read many times. For example, in the weather station, I said, like, we have the data, global data for the weather. We can have a multiple queries. One query was, what is the average temperature of Belgaum? Second query was, what is the average temperature of Belgaum during the month of April? You might have some other queries. What is the maximum temperature during April? What is the minimum temperature during the month of April? So there are thousands of queries which you can run. So that is how HDFS is like, read, write once and read many times. That is the main feature of HDFS. And the core of a HDFS is we take the computation. When I say the computation is means what is the average temperature of Belgaum city during the month of April. This is the computation we want to do. This is the processing. This processing will be taken to the data. Data will not be brought to the server where we have the computation. Rather, computation is taken to the where the data is available. That is how it will get a fast results. And how to run those queries using the MapReduce programming. Any questions? So let us start. Big data and analytics. Big data is all about huge data storage. That is what we just talked about. It's all about a huge amount of data, the volume. Processing of a stored data. So we want to run some kind of a processing on top of that stored data. And the processing example I give is finding an average temperature of a Belgaum city. So that is a kind of a processing we want to drawing conclusion from processing of the data. So if anybody who doesn't know about the temperature, what is the weather pattern of Belgaum city, if we run that particular query, if he is traveling in the month of let us say April, he can find the average temperature. He can find what is the maximum temperature, what is the minimum temperature, maybe humidity related information, other weather related information, rainfall. So all those we can draw important conclusions from the processing of that stored data. Big data analytics examines large amounts of data to uncover hidden patterns, correlations, and other insights. So, why we want to do the processing on top of the data? We want to find, we want to uncover if there is any hidden pattern, is there any kind of a correlation or any kind of other insights. Okay, for example, average the temperature across each month. Okay, you can compare with some other city how on a year it got changed. So you can find if it shows any kind of a pattern. Maybe like if you try to compare with the Bangalore and Belgaum, you will see there is a some other pattern for Belgaum and some other pattern for Bangalore. And if you see like a metro cities like Mumbai or New Delhi, you might see a similar pattern as that of a Bangalore. And if you see smaller cities pattern, it might be very similar to Belgaum. So that kind of patterns, some kind of a information we can infer from the data. And correlations. Correlations is like if one entity is dependent on other entity, that can be found out using the correlation. Whether there is a one entity has a correlation with another entity. If there is a correlation, it can be a positive correlation or it can be a negative correlation, or there might be no relation with the two selected entities. For example, correlations. If we consider the same weather data, the temperature might have some relation with the humidity. Temperature might have some relation with the water availability in the city. If temperature is more, maybe the water levels are less, groundwater level. So we can select any entities we want to compare. It goes by the problem statement. What is your problem statement? What things you want to analyze? So maybe the lower temperature and higher level of water, so there might be some kind of a relation. So or for temperature and humidity, there might be some correlation. So that kind of a correlations, hidden patterns, or some other insights we can get from doing a analytics on that particular stored big data. These are the 5 V's of a big data. So these are big data is characterized by these 5 V's. First one is, we already talked about the volume, the huge size of the data. Okay, that is the volume. Big data means it's the volume. Second one is the velocity, speed of data generation. speed of data generation. We just talked about weather station example, e-commerce sites or any grocery stores, the amount of data that is getting generated, stock markets. So that is the rate at which the data will get generated. Then next is the variety. Variety is either we can have a structured data. The good example for the structured data is a relational database. In case of a relational database, you will have a well-defined table structures, and each of those table structure, whatever the entity you are uh, columns or the attributes you are creating, you will have a proper data type and what is the size. Everything is properly mentioned. That is called as a structured. Semi-structured is some are not structured and some part is structured. Unstructured data, it could be in any kind of a any form. Okay, there is not really any kind of a structure associated with that particular data. It can be in the form of a text, it can be in the form of a video, audio file, image file. So those are the unstructured data. So big data might comprise of structured data, semi-structured and unstructured data. Then veracity. So veracity, one thing about the data is the inconsistency. So whatever the data we are getting, there might be issues with the consistency and there might be uncertainty in the data. So all those things are possible when you are collecting the huge amount of data. When data is getting generated at a rapid pace, inconsistency and uncertainty are bound to happen. Then fifth one is the value conclusion drawn. So example, weather station example, we can conclude what would be the average temperature of Belgaum city in April. So if there is a any kind of a query you want to run, maybe you want to check the rainfall. So we can draw conclusions based on what is your query. We can draw conclusion based on your query. Hadoop distributed file system is one approach to store big data. So HDFS is just one approach to store the big data. So in this particular session, we are going to look into HDFS design features, HDFS components, HDFS block replication, safe mode, rack awareness, name node, high availability, name node federation, HDFS checkpoints and backups, snapshots, and NFS gateway. Design feature, HDFS design feature, we already talked about it. HDFS, the core of the design is write once, read many times, right? Write once, read many. Design is intended to facilitate streaming reads. So I told you, whenever this data is getting generated, whether it's a weather station, whether it is a grocery store like a DMart or e-commerce sites, they are generating data. Okay, continuously they are generating the data, and once the data is generated, hardly any changes will be required, or you can assume there is no changes required to the whatever the data generated. Only why that data, huge amount of data is used to run the analytics, that is read many times. Files may be appended, but random seeks are not permitted. There is no caching of the data. So whatever the files, the information that is getting stored, that can be appended, but random seeks are not permitted. You cannot seek any information randomly, and there is no caching of the data. So in order for the normal way of processing information is getting the data, okay, and doing the processing on the server. So that in order to make that process little faster, if there is any common data or most common used queries, then that kind of a data will be cached. Okay, so that data will be cached. So whenever the query comes, it doesn't go to the disk for getting the data, it will get it from the cache. That is how the queries will become faster. But in case of a HDFS big data, there is a no concept of a caching. Data storage and processing happen on the same server node. So we'll see what is that server node. Moving computation is cheaper than moving data. So this is, I told, the core of design of HDFS is we don't move the data, we move the computation. Wherever the data is available, we move that computation to the data, and we do the computation there, and we get the results. So moving computation is much cheaper than moving the data. A reliable file system maintains multiple copies of data across the cluster. I told you, whatever the data that is getting stored in a HDFS, it will be stored in multiple copies. Suppose you have certain data, let's say you have 100 MB of a data. That 100 MB of the data will be copied in multiple data nodes. Same 100 MB will be copied in maybe 2 to 3 data nodes, depending upon what is your cluster size. And why we do that, as I told you before, uh, HDFS is a like a huge cluster, lot of data nodes holding the valuable data stored in them. If there is any problem with the data node, means if there is a hardware failure or a software failure, uh, any kind of a failure, if that particular data node is not available, then if we don't have a multiple copies, we will lose the data which is stored on that data node. So that is the reason it is kept multiple copies. Whenever one data node goes down, whatever the information that was stored in that particular data node will be available with the name node. Name node will have all the mapping, what information, what data is stored in each of the data node. So what it will do is, whenever one node goes down, it will know what data was there, and it will replicate it on some other data nodes. So that is how it becomes a very reliable file system. A failure of single node or even rack in a large cluster will not bring down the file system. Just I explained, even if single node goes down, or a complete rack in case of a very large cluster, nothing will happen. The system will not go down. It will be able to recover whatever the data from the failed node or the failed rack. And HDFS block size. The by default the block size is 64 MB, but it depends on how much amount of data you want to store. Based on that, it will make the block size. By default, it is going to be 64 MB. And let us say you have a file of 20 MB, then it will make a block size of 20 MB. Or if you say you have 84 MB, then what it will do, it will make a first block of 64 MB, then next block of rest, that is 20 MB. HDFS components. So these are the HDFS is based on two types of nodes. First node is called as a name node, and the second one is the data node. So HDFS system works on the master slave basis. Like there is a master, and he will be directing the all the data nodes. Those are called as the slaves. What the name node, it holds the metadata. And what is the metadata? Data of the data, not actual data. The actual data is stored in the data nodes. Data nodes, the data will persist in data nodes. The actual data will be stored in the data nodes. The information about what has been stored in the data nodes and which data node is storing which data, that is the information or the data of the data, that is a metadata. Name node only holds the metadata. So metadata is nothing but information about what data nodes are there, what data is stored in them, and how many blocks are there, and what is the mapping. All that information which forms as a metadata will be stored in the name node. File system namespace. So name node also responsible for managing the file system namespace, opening, closing, renaming the files and directories. Manages block creation. Okay, so whenever a certain client wants to write any kind of a data, so name node will create those block, and if there is a need, deletion and replication. That is the job of a name node. Then mapping of blocks to data node. So this is part of the metadata. It will have the mapping of what block of data is stored in which node. So that is how, if any node fails, it will be able to recoup that particular data in some other node. Handles data node failure, we talked about this, and client management. So it will manage the client. Data nodes or the slave nodes holds actual data, and in HDFS we will have a one name node and we will have many data nodes in the cluster. And data nodes, it will hold the actual data, and it serves read write request from the file system to client. So whatever the client wants to read or write, it will perform that read write request. So this is the diagram of the HDFS system. You can see the client name node is there, secondary name node. These are the data nodes which holds the actual data. So name node is the one which will have all the information about what is being stored in these data nodes. So which data node is saving what kind of a blocks, that mapping information will be available in the name node, and that name information it will be holding on the its memory. It will not be stored on any storage, permanent storage. It will be holding on the memory, so that the processing will be faster. Now client, it makes a request. So where do I read or write a data? So client wants to do a read operation or write operation. So it will interact with the name node. Then name node, it will check the client request whether it is a read or write, and depending upon that, if it is a read, then it will know which data nodes is holding that particular data. Then it will get that information and it will pass that information to the client. And if this particular client wants to write, then it will check which data nodes to be written and what is the block size, and it will give all those information to the client. Once the client has that particular information, it will interact with each of the data nodes and it will perform the operation, whether it's a read or whether it's a write operation, it will perform. And also name node will provide the information about the replication. Replication is what? To store the data in multiple copies. So data node will make sure that all the data are copied in multiple copies. Once that operation is complete, then it will intimate the client. So you can see here client it is doing the write operation on this first data node, and it is doing the read operation on the second data node, and it is doing read as well as write operation on the third data node. So once this operation is complete, replication is complete, it will intimate the client, and once this is done, client will intimate the name node saying that the replication is complete. So whatever the changes, read and write has happened, whatever the edits have happened, name node, it will be logged into the edit log. And whatever is the current state, okay, current state, what information is stored in which data node, what is the mapping of the block and the data node, all that information will be stored in a file called fs image. So name node will be having a file called fs image that will have that information, and whatever the additional changes that has been happening, that will get into the edit logs. Now secondary name node. What is secondary name node? It is also called as a checkpoint or a backup node. So what it will do is regularly it will be checking the name node, and it will be getting the fs image file. Fs image is what? Whatever is the current state, okay, whatever is the current state of the data, okay, metadata. So metadata means what node is holding what kind of information, all that mapping information will be in the fs image. Plus it will have the edit logs. Edit logs will have whatever the changes that happen to the files, those two information will be there. It will get those two files and it will merge it, and whatever the it will merge into FS image, and it will put back that FS image into name node. So by doing this, it is always made sure that the current state, whatever is the current state name node is that is having, which is on the memory, is updated into FS image. Why we need this one is, in case something goes wrong with the name node. So here you can say it is a case of single point failure. Okay, if name node fails, everything fails. Okay, we have other alternative for that. We will see it in the next section. Name node, suppose if something goes wrong with the name node, or it has to be restarted, then we should know the because every information is on the memory, it is not in the any permanent storage, so it will be lost. So whenever anything happens, when if there is a need to restart the name node, it will take the FS image. Okay, and it will load its memory, and if there is anything in the edit logs, it will update that information. That is how at any stage, if there is a failure, it will be able to come back. Okay, and because that is the one information, metadata is the one which has all the mapping, so it will know what data is stored in which data node. So that is the most valuable information that cannot be lost. So that is how the secondary name node, it works as a checkpoint. Every regularly it will make sure that the current state is updated into FS image. No. So examples of client name node, data node interaction. So how the interaction, just what we talked about, it is given here. Client to name node, it will check where do I read or write a data. So client wants to read or do a write operation on the HDFS. Name node selects data node for writing the data and determines how many blocks are needed. So name node, once client requests name node, I want to do the read or write, name node will selects the data node, which data nodes to be used, and also it will determine how many blocks are required. Name node to client assigns data nodes to read or write the data. So it will assign whatever the data nodes which name node has selected, it will assign it to the client for the read or the write operation. Client then interacts with the data nodes, read or write the data in one or more data nodes depending upon number of blocks and amount of replication. So it will write into the data nodes. So whatever the information was given by the name node, according to that it will write into the data nodes. And amount of replication, either we maintain a 2 copies or 3 copies or 4 copies. It is a configurable thing, and it depends on the cluster. Normally if cluster is big, then we will have about 3 copies of the same data. If cluster is a little bit smaller, maybe we will have 2 copies of the data. Name node, depending on how many nodes are in the cluster, name node will attempt to write replicas of the data blocks on the nodes that are in other separate racks. So when we are doing the replication or keeping a multiple copy, name node will select the data nodes which are on different racks. Okay, that is the first thing it will check. If there is no different racks, there is only one rack, then it will try to find a data node on the different server. Else, if there is only one rack, then replicated blocks are returned to other servers in the same rack. So why this thing is done is to make sure that in case of any failures, if a rack goes down, if every data is on the same rack, everything will be lost. So that is the reason it will look for the another rack. If other rack is not possible, then it will look for the other servers on the same rack. Data node acknowledges the file block replication is complete. So data node will, once all the replication is complete, it will acknowledge. Once it acknowledges to the client, then client closes the file and informs the name node that operation is complete. So client will close if it is reading the file. or if it is writing the file, it will close all those files, and it will inform the name node that the operation is complete. Once the metadata has been delivered to the client, all over this iteration, name node will these are the different steps. Step back and let the conversation between the client and the data node proceed. Okay, so this is when name node gives the information about the data node and the number of blocks. That is when server node will not be part of that processing. Client will directly interact with the data node. Client will directly interact with the data node. What the name node will do is it monitors the data node by listening the heartbeat signal. Lack of heartbeat signal indicates a potential failure of the data nodes. Let us say it has given the client 10 data nodes, then it will keep on monitoring those 10 data nodes during the operation of read and write. If there is a failure of any of those data node, then it will give it will know what data is available on that particular data node. So it will check with the other data nodes from its metadata, and wherever that particular data is available, that data node information will be given to the client, so that they start the process. Okay, whatever the read or write operation, so they will resume or it will restart. In case of data node failure, suggest client to use different data node and begin re-replicating the missing blocks. Failed data node can be taken offline. Okay, if that particular data node has a major problem, then maybe hardware failure, then it will be taken offline by informing the name node. So once we inform the name node that this data node will not be available, then it will be kept out of the HDFS pool. Storage of metadata. Data nodes provides a report on blocks once in every 10 heartbeat signals to name node from its persistent storage. So whatever the data node is storing the data on its node, okay, all the information will be sent as a report. Okay, so how many blocks are written, all those information will be sent to the name node, so that name node will updates its current state or the metadata. This report enables the name node to keep an up-to-date account of all the data blocks in the cluster, so that all the information that is available in the cluster is up to date. So what information is stored in which data, that information has to be up to date, and that has to be with the name node. Name node updates mappings between data blocks and physical data nodes for performance reason, keeps this mapping in its memory and not in persistent storage. As I told you, name node will keep the mappings between the data blocks and the physical data nodes. So what data is stored in which data node, that information will be stored with the name node, and that information will be in the memory. It will not be in the persistent storage. So it is always in the memory. That is why we have the secondary name node, which will be making copying this current state, which is the metadata which is in memory, into fs image file. Name node has two disk files that track changes to the metadata. First one is the fs image. This is the file I talked about, an image of the file system state. Whatever is the current state, that will be stored in the fs image. And edit file, a series of modification done to the file system. Whatever the write operations that has happened on different data nodes, all those edits will be saved in the edit file. Secondary name node, checkpoint node. It performs periodic checkpoint that evaluate the status of the name node. This is the first job. Download fs image, edit files periodically, and then joins them into a new fs image in order to upload it into name node. I told you it will regularly it will download fs image and edit files. It will merge it back, and whatever is the new fs image, it will upload it back to the name node, so that we have always have a up-to-date state which is stored in the fs image, okay, file system image. So summary of the roles of SDFS. It uses a master slave model designed for a large file reading or streaming. Name node is a metadata server or a data traffic cop. It provides a single namespace managed by the name node. Data is redundantly stored in data nodes, no data on the name node. So name node will not have any actual data, it will have only metadata. And we store the multiple copies, that is how it is redundantly stored. Secondary name node performs the checkpoints of the name node files, file systems state. So name node will perform the checkpoints at a regular time. So it will maintain the state, whatever is the current state, into the FS image.